Okay, so we're going to get into a little bit about different modes of communicating information um, on the 3D and on the quantum level. So, the first mode of communication at the baseline, at the bottom of the communication tower, is going to be mathematics. Mathematics coming in at number 4. Okay, so mathematics is a way to communicate information that is a very polarized system. It can be a true or a false. That's how mathematics works. It's like true or false, true or false. So it's very like a polarizing concept of or mode of communication of information. So above mathematics, coming in at number 3, is going to be symbols. So symbols is another mode of communication by which we can communicate information. But unlike mathematics, the symbols are neutral in nature. So instead of being like a true or false, like the mathematical statements would be, it would be like a cat. So a cat is neither true or false. It's representing the thing that it is. So it's neutral. It doesn't have like um lie or truth. It just is what it is. And so above symbols is going to be another polarized version of communication, which we refer to as language. So language is also one of those modes of communication where it could be true or false. Like we could be telling a true statement right now, or we could be telling a false statement right now. Or even in language, it gets like we could be telling our truth, but that could be a true or false. It's very confusing mode of communication, in our opinion, but a necessary one at this time. And above language is going to be telepathy. Now, telepathy is run side by side with symbols. It's a neutral mode of communication. So the telepathy is also a way that information is communicated on a quantum level. So like a lot of like adepts or seers or like people that are tapped in, or they're on the evolutionary ladder, it comes with the territory. You start to receive these types of these communication modes climbing the evolutionary ladder. It just comes with the territory. It's not like you can't stop it. It just comes as you're climbing, and you just get stronger and stronger, like working out your body or working out anything else. We've never had like a telepathic communication where we were like, is this true or false? It's always been exactly what it is. But we protect our energy really well because the telepathy is really coming from the inside of ourself. So I don't know about like any of these MK Ultra programs or whatever. If people are having things going into their minds, information or whatever from outside themselves. We've never had that type of experience before. So for us, all telepathic communication is a true statement because we are controlling our energy, so we know exactly where it's coming from and we know what it applies to. So we never question any types of transmissions like that because all of that quantum level stuff, when we start getting into the quantum level stuff, it's all coming like via telepathic communication, via symbols. Very little of it is coming via language because, or even mathematics. I mean, okay, mathematics may be a little bit better than language, but you have to know that language to be able to communicate the information. So if you don't know that language really well, it's like whatever. But in our opinion, this is why the like most of the quantum physicists and stuff, they can see these concepts mathematically, but they don't know how to get there. They don't know how to touch it. They can't touch it. They know it's there. They can see it, and their probabilities, or they're measuring certain circumferences of things mathematically from the outside, but they can't actually touch the thing. They can't touch it. They can only see it from where they're standing. So that's one of the main reasons why all the hieroglyphs in Egypt and stuff are all in symbols. Like, that's ancient information. It's quantum information. Like, and actually, if we start getting into talking about the Bible, I mean, the Bible is in its entirety. It's complete. But you gotta think it's being communicated in a mode of communication which is operating in duality, language. So in order for the Bible to be complete, it would have to be true and false, and that's why you see the contradictions in the Bible. The Bible is calling us to look at both sides of the coin when it talks contradictory, because the only way we can perceive the whole picture when perceiving through the means of a polarized communication style is to take both sides of the coin and look at them to see what the whole coin is. That's why the Bible has these contradictory concepts. And also, that's why Jesus is speaking in symbols. He's communicating quantum information. Most of this information, it's like you're either aligned with it or you're not. It's like you have to be on the frequency to receive it. So in order to understand what the symbols mean, you have to embody those symbols first. And if you haven't embodied the symbols, you're not going to understand the parable. It's the same way scientists do mathematics and say, well, if you don't understand the math, then you're not going to understand the concept. Same type of thing. But the only difference is science is in a box. They're operating inside a polarized communication style. So you try to take something that's infinite and you try to put it into a box and communicate it. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. That's why, all these adepts and whatever, they're doing the quantum stuff via telepathic communication. All of that quantum entanglement stuff where it's two different polarities communicating information back and forth in the quantum field, that happens. Entities communicate it can be on the microcosmic level, but you got to remember, whole entities can be entangled. Self-organized systems can be entangled with each other on the macrocosmic level, and whole groups of people can be entangled with each other, which is what we're starting to see with some of these timelines that are starting to collide. It's very interesting stuff, but that's why Jesus is speaking in symbols, because if you're not on the frequency to receive the information, it's not going to make any sense to you. But if you've embodied the symbols and you have the understanding within yourself to break down the symbols and what they mean, then it makes perfect sense. It's quantum physics. You can't communicate it in language unless it's polarized, and you take both sides and you put it together. That's another reason why we don't really understand, like, the Christians, like, when they want to look at, like, study mysticism or whatever, they always go to the what's that called, the Kabbalah. But you guys don't look at the pagans. Your polarity is literally the pagans. The pagans have to study the Christians, and the Christians have to study the pagans, and you're going to have the whole picture all in one. But the pagans will take the time to study Christianity. They'll take the time to study the Bible. But the Christians, they don't take the time to study anything but their own book. And they don't even study both sides of their own book. They only look at what they believe everything is true. but it's not. How can it be true? We have polarity in life. Everywhere you look around, you see polarity. How could you have something be complete and then not have polarity when you're communicating in a 3D realm that is polarized, in a communication style that is polarized? How else would you communicate the truth besides through symbols, which Jesus spoke in parables, which are symbols, or people figuring out the polarization where the Bible contradicts itself? Because that's where it's at. Wherever it contradicts itself, that's where the key is. Everybody, they just blow it off. Oh, it's contradictory. Well, look a little deeper. Look a little deeper and see if when you start digging what you don't find. And telepathy is not like it's something that you can work on. It's something that you can train yourself to get better at. But like it's a natural occurrence that happens. So it's not like you have it or you don't. You might not have it right now, and in 6 months from now you might have it because you grew and you climbed the evolutionary ladder to the point where you're starting to tap into it in your own self. Because everything is just a communication with our own self, really. At the end of the day, that's what these adepts are doing. That's what these seers are doing. They're communicating information about them own self to them own self to help other people and to navigate them own self through life. Because the stuff that the people that are dealing with, that are into these types of concepts, are extremely advanced to the point where they can barely even communicate these concepts to other people, except for if they're on like a very advanced level of understanding, or can just receive telepathic communication. It's much easier to communicate the information in its entirety, as opposed to trying to chop it into something that it doesn't fit into and try to communicate it as best you can through that means. You got to communicate one side of it, and then you got to communicate the other side of it, almost, to make the whole thing come into focus when you're using language or when you're using mathematics. So that's the different modes of communication that we use on a regular basis, and that we've found to be the most effective in our practices and in our the way that we teach and everything else. So I hope that was helpful.